Welcome to All Business, No Boundaries, a collection of supply chain stories by DHL Supply Chain, the North American leader in contract logistics. I'm your host, Will Haywood. This is a place for in-depth discussions on the supply chain challenges keeping you up at night. We're breaking beyond the boundaries that are limiting your supply chain. Today's episode is From Warehouse to Workwear, Carhartt's Strategic Supply Chain Evolution. Our guests are Tony Gariety, Vice President of Distribution and Logistics at Carhartt, and Justin Kastman, Senior Director of Operations, eCommerce at DHL Supply Chain. Let's dive in. Well, welcome back, Tony.
Yeah, good
You're
to be here.
a repeat guest on the podcast, one of the very few, and I think the only one that we've done both live in person. Today we're in the Carhartt DC outside of Columbus, Ohio. We talk a little bit more about that as we get into it. But for our listeners, if you could kind of refresh their memory on who you are, what your role is, how long you've been at Carhartt.
Yeah, I'm Tony Gariety, Vice President of Distribution Operations for Carhartt. So I've got responsibility of all fulfillment operations in North America and our European operation. Been with Carhartt going on 8 years now. Well, a little over 8 years now. Yeah, and that's
All right, good, good. So Justin, this is your first time.
It is.
Right? Yeah, well, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. Tell us about you, what your role is at DHL, and what your relationship has been with Carhartt.
Yeah, Justin Kastman, Senior Director of Operations, and I've been supporting Carhartt really since day one when it was still a project and figuring out what the network was going to be. So I'm based in Columbus and have supported the 3 sites that have existed in the Columbus area, as well as supported our Texas and Memphis facilities over the years as well.
Okay, great. So take us back to the beginning. When was that, and what was the origin story of this relationship?
well, it really started. I mean, we've been in a huge growth mode for quite a while. And when I first hired in, we only had one operating facility, and it's one that we operate. And our growth was just incredible. And so, we really had a decision to make. And, we really needed a partner that scale was their specialty, that had the means and all of that. So we started an RFP back in 2020 heading into COVID, which was kind of funny. A lot of people are like, well, why are we doing an RFP now? I'm like, so we'll know who exactly we need to partner up with. And assuming that business was going to soften, but it actually didn't. We had a record year during COVID. So long story short, it was really about growth, who could help us get there. And, clearly DHL stood out above the rest. And like Justin said, we've opened 4 centers. We've done, a merger. We've done a business
Couple consolidations.
Consolidation. So we've kind of done some builds. So
Yep.
just pretty much done.
Yeah. Well,
Get the whole
we'll dig in.
spectrum.
We'll dig into that in the next few minutes. But Justin, you were on the receiving end of the RFQ or RFP. What was that like? How did you guys interpret the request from Carhartt and kind of build your understanding so that you could respond?
Yeah, as Tony mentioned, it happened during COVID, so it was a bit unique with some of the challenges and not being able to meet in person or tour some existing sites. So that did pose some unique challenges to start, but as we went through, we developed the relationships with Tony and his colleagues in key areas to start learning their business. I think some of the unique challenges that drove the RFP and where we were ultimately successful was a 3 or 4 iterations of what the solution concept was going to be, specifically starting with one category of product in a smaller building, ultimately doubling the volume and about tripling the headcount and square footage that we needed to operate in order to be successful to support Carhartt's growth. And from there, it's to Tony's point, continue that growth mode with more centers that we were opening up as well as some takeovers and right sizing of the network.
Yeah, so on the growth, I mean, Carhartt has an interesting history, and I know you shared a little bit of that the last time we talked, but maybe a refresher on sort of what the backstory is, but then what's transpired in the market and with your business that has driven the growth, in the last 5-10 years or so?
Yeah, we've been around 136 years, 4th generation family owned. We're obviously a workwear brand. And, we got a very simple strategy. We serve and protect all hardworking people by building durable products. Started in Detroit back in 1889. Hamilton Carhartt was witnessing the railroad workers wearing coveralls back in the day, and coveralls back then were meant for just keeping you cleaner. They weren't to keep you warm or really functional. It was just about cleanliness. And they were basically rags that were made by the prison system up in Michigan. And he simply said they deserve better, they need more, I can do it better. And he bought a sewing machine, and the rest is history. But one thing that's very unique about us, I mean, quality and the customer are two things that are just paramount to our culture. And not many companies actually been around 136 years, but certainly cannot say that the very process that started the company is still going today. So Hamilton followed the railroad workers, you know, to understand what they needed, and then kept evolving and building to that. And to this day, we've got over 5,000 relationships with separate people in industry that we go and spend a couple weeks with. And to see where and how their business is changing, how do their needs change. And we've been doing that from day one and still doing it to this day.
Yeah, and I take from your accent you're no longer in Detroit.
No, yeah. South Detroit.
yeah, real south.
No, I'm born and raised in Atlanta, so can't hide the accent.
Yeah. So on the growth front, what forces in the market do you guys see that really have sort of propelled the really rapid growth that you have seen?
I think a lot of it, you know, we've expanded our product offering. You know, the historic Carhartt stuff was all very cold winter outerwear. So we've recently expanded into a women's line. But then also, you know, we talk about hardworking people. There's a lot of hard work going on in warm places. Not all the hard work's just happening outside in the snow. So one of our biggest opportunities is getting into more of the performance fabrics and materials. You know, the moisture wicking, the UV protection, those kinds of things. So that's really opened up really half of the country to us that we normally didn't have, you know, a big foot in. So that's helped us expand. And then of course, we go into a lot of different sectors. So we're in, you know, the ag sectors, we're in the hardware sectors, mass retailers. And we've got a pretty complex business model. This is just tagging on a little bit more of the background, but you know, we run our own website. We run a business-to-business website. We run our 58 of our own retail stores. We got an industrial channel, and we are dealing with about 4,000 customers in North America. And we're in over like 11,000 different types of stores, everything from big box retailers that everybody's heard of down to, you know, Joe's fishing shack up in Montana and everything in between.
Right.
So pretty complex business model, which makes it challenging for Justin and team, but
yeah, you're teeing him up perfectly. So Justin, as you sort of take all that in and you think about the growth plus the diversity of the distribution channels, like how do you take step one as a partner provider and then evolve along the way?
Yeah, I think first it's understanding the nuances of the Carhartt business and making sure that we can support the end consumer, whether it's an e-com order or Joe's fish and game shop in Montana to those big box retailers that everybody's heard of. They all have different requirements on how they want the product presented, the different value-added services that they expect when that product is delivered to their facilities as well, and making sure that we design an operation and train our people to be able to deliver that day in and day out.
Yeah, and one thing that also is interesting with our, you know, we've got multiple peak seasons that aren't just traditional, you know, holiday, Turkey 5, whatever that's being called this day and time. But our service model just isn't based off of speed. Actually, the majority of our service model to the bigger wholesalers is about reliability and hitting a specific date in time in the future, because that's when they're changing out their floor. They're setting it up. So our model is obviously more of the quicker stuff on the D2C part, but the other is really about reliability, dependability, and being able to deliver, like you said, things in specific, nuanced ways that they needed and wanted at the time that they needed and wanted.
Right, right. So on the topic of peak season, I know, Justin, that your business has a lot of familiarity with kind of typical peak. How have you been able to apply that to the Carhartt business patterns and demands?
Yeah, so as Tony mentioned, there really are two peak seasons. You've got that traditional retail wholesale peak season and of course the .com peak season that everybody knows of, right? And so that retail wholesale season starts a little bit sooner. And so by partnering with Tony and his colleagues to pull volume up that they have firm orders for, help balance the labor out a little bit so we can have a more streamlined labor plan every day, utilize our pack and hold to have orders ready to ship during that window that the customers expect them to deliver in, really helps us optimize to ensure that we can hit the service during those peak months. That rolls then right into the e-com peak season where we're going to get into those onesie, twosie units per order that we can, make sure that are on customers' doorsteps before, Santa and Christmas time.
Right. Yeah, to just put it into context, this past year, the pack and hold, like Justin was talking about with the future orders, we went out and really extended the allocation window to be able to see all the work out there. And since we started doing that back in late June, well, actually May, I think we started, we've done about 6.4 million units of pull forward, which in revenue terms, that's basically a peak season's month worth of volume. And why that seems obvious, the benefits of it, but also to Justin's point, in our network, because we have been historically a more winter-based, we run out of capacity in the winter, and then we got plenty in spring.
Right.
So what that allows us to do is pull that capacity in, work it, but the biggest thing, it allows us to go into the peak and not run at risk of being behind. And so what actually happens, and it's kind of, you'd be surprised how when it gets cold, sales shoot up. I mean, it's incredible. And so if we go into Christmas season peak behind and we catch a cold snap, we actually can't, we would catch another replenishment cycle. And so this enables us to be able to do that. In the past, it's almost like we had to pick service.com or that. So it's not an either or, it's a both and now.
Yeah.
And we're working on straight time. So, there's just so many other benefits and efficiencies.
Yeah.
And then your service level is just, you just don't put that at risk because you already got the work done.
Right.
Putting pallets on the truck
that's the
easy part.
Yeah.
So it all plays in there. And then also even the labor within the building of how wholesale starts to slow, and then we're able to shift labor around. So the complex model actually helps us in that regard.
It does. We get those folks in earlier in the season before the traditional peak season need of other businesses, keep them around, train them, and carry them all the way through.
Yeah. So that's an interesting evolution. Another one is just the physical footprint of the network. Can you guys describe, starting in 2020 and, we're here in 2025 today, what's changed in the physical footprint of the network?
So we grew almost, I think it was 495%.
Approximately.
So going back to approximately. So 136 years, in the last 5 years, we've doubled in size. So that's not a detail, that's a drastic, that's a hockey stick shape. So with that, we didn't get one building built before we were starting another one. So we had already had another facility with another provider doing some dead storage down in Memphis. Ended up expanding that building and then turning that into full-blown fulfillment operation. And then that's where we entered in with DHL and started the other facility here in Columbus. And then, like I said, paint wasn't even dry and we started this one. And then this one wasn't even dry and we started Texas.
Then finally came back and took over the Memphis one.
Yep. And then, so now we're operating, and then we consolidated the other smaller facility here in Columbus into Texas, which is a highly automated facility. So
Right.
Larger, more capacity, more efficiencies, all the typical reasons we would do that. But now currently our footprint is we own and operate a facility in Kentucky, and then DHL is operating our DCs now in Memphis, Columbus, and Texas.
Okay. So Justin, from DHL standpoint, how do you keep up with that rate of change? How do you keep the team kind of performing while you're continuing to build?
Yeah, it's been quite a journey over the years. As Tony mentioned, we had quite a footprint in Columbus as we were increasing capacity, as we were right-sizing the network and building some of those highly automated sites down in Texas. So as we opened up that first facility here in Columbus, we were able to bring on a lot of folks from our campus, both hourly and salaried leaders, to really seed the operation with DHL tenure and experienced operational leaders. As we grew in Columbus, we then dispersed that team to be able to open up these new facilities with little to no hiccups and in a very streamlined approach to drive success really from day one. As we went into the other locations outside of where we started in Columbus, we used a similar approach really, both in Memphis and in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, where we had leaders from elsewhere in the business that we brought to Columbus to learn the business, learn Carhartt, and then reload to Dallas or Memphis, again, to see the operation with experienced leaders, not just with DHL, but knew the Carhartt business to drive success there. As we've stabilized and grew to that point, that came then a little bit with some consolidation as well. As Tony mentioned earlier, we are a big organization and all those sites are based in campuses, whether that's Columbus, Memphis, or Dallas. And so we were able to then place all the other DHL folks in other operations that needed leaders or hourly labor as Carhartt's ebbs and flows changed to get to the network that we're at today.
Gotcha. Okay, so you said a highly automated Texas facility. There's some automation here in Ohio too. Wanted to spend some time talking about sort of the automation journey, some of the technologies that you brought into your sites, and maybe Tony, starting with you, how do you as Carhartt think about that as a operations leader for the business? And does everything work for you, or is it a test out and try approach?
It's a little bit of both, actually. We automated the facility in Kentucky back started in 2015, went operational 2017. Traditional shuttles, cranes, those kind of things. A lot of growing pains with that. But one of the biggest things that DHL really brought to the table with us was their relationships with, they've got resources that are developing technologies, using different ones. It really allowed us to kind of shorten our window of getting into it more so now that we got robots in all the facilities, which was one of the things that DHL brought to us is a quick solution for free. It's like, hey, we've got a relationship here, and we think it can certainly help us meet the moment on volume. So went with that there, and subsequently now we've put it in one of our own facility and in the Memphis facility, and it's doubled our productivity.
Yeah.
So
Doubled.
And then like stretch. That was the other nice thing. One good thing about our business models, our inbound cartons are all the same size.
Yeah.
So we're a really good customer to you're not having to solve for the physical challenges first. And Justin and team approached us and said, look, are y'all willing to try it? And I'm like, hey, if it's safe, ethical, and won't get me in jail, I'm all for it.
That's a good criteria.
So it's simple. So I love testing and learning and trying, and there's a couple different technologies in this facility that I think we were one of the first sites.
We were with Adverb behind us here for carton sortation and consolidation. Yep.
Yeah.
And now we're going with stretch in all the facilities, which that's a great one just because of the the sheer physicality and the nature of that role. And if, you'd never unloaded a container's been sitting in Texas heat
Yeah.
in July, you hadn't,
not fun.
you hadn't lived yet. So
Right. Yeah. So Justin, tell everybody what Stretch is and kind of how we came on.
Stretch is a robot from Boston Dynamics that's going to support case unloading from inbound containers or trailers.
Yeah.
We've partnered with them for the few years now and implemented it here about 2 years ago and have seen really good success in this facility. And to Tony's point a moment ago, we're now deploying across the rest of the network sites.
Yeah. So before it was a person had to go into a trailer, pick up the case, put it on
the conveyor.
Yeah.
Hot in the summer, cold in the winter.
Yeah.
30 to 40 pound at the most cases repetitively over and over throughout the day. And when you're getting 8 to 10 containers a day, it's a pretty tough job that people don't enjoy. And so bringing Stretch in to do it, not only from a people perspective, but from an operational perspective, has really paid dividends as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. The two of you talk about a partnership a lot, and I think that's a term that gets overused a lot in business. But I sense there's something genuine about what you guys have, and I wondered if you could just spend a couple minutes giving your perspective on what does that mean to you.
Yeah, like I said, that term can be overused and sound cliche, but when you start talking really strategic partnership too, not just small partnership, but a lot of it really comes down to trusting who you're working with.
Mm-hmm.
And our teams have been, just fantastic working together. But it also shows up every day, and we don't have this when it's good it's me, when it's bad it's you. We don't get into that stuff. If you've ever been in a bad strategic partnership, you kind of know it when you see it. It feels different. You're spending way too much time on stuff you shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
And like when we have challenges, operations comes with its challenges, but when it comes up, it's proactively looked at. We get together, we share in the pain if it's a mutual thing we screwed up, but we don't get into you just keep it on task.
Yeah.
So it's complete give and take. Have an open and honest dialogue.
Comes down to trust, and Carhartt's success is DHL success.
Yeah. So I know you love every customer, Justin, but are there unique attributes of the Carhartt relationships
Absolutely.
that you point to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first they've got a team embedded here, both from an operational point of view to make sure we're supported and giving them feedback as well, and from a quality point of view as well. So this is more on the first inbound, the first receipt quality with teams coming in, but having that kind of joint ownership of what the building delivers, I think is a value add to ensure that we're really all on the same page. We're all one team,
Mm-hmm.
and we're all working towards that common goal.
Yeah, and we put the teams here on for the only reason. It was about how do we have somebody on site that can solve if they need something that we're blocking or that we can, got to decide, fix, whatever.
Can go into your organization,
there.
help get answers and help solve a problem.
Not this, we got a problem and let's set up a Teams call in 2 days and then talk about it, and then it's grinding to a halt. So, so that's why we embedded those teams here to work along with, and to just keep those roadblocks out of the way.
Yeah, that's great. So looking ahead, what's next for Carhartt? Do you guys have any exciting things coming, either sort of on the product side, on the supply chain side?
Product side, I discussed earlier,
Yeah.
Really getting into the performance fabric products. That's definitely a new frontier for us. Continuing to build out the women's line, and then really doubling down on our industrial arm.
Mm-hmm.
Is really where we're focusing on from product and all of that. In terms of supply chain, as we mentioned in RFP that we're doing down in Kentucky, we had an interesting triangulation of events where we had unsupported software, obsolete parts, and end of life. And so going through this RFP, and that was a big thing that we had DHL involved in, was just y'all been through so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
So in the technology evaluations, all that partnered up with us, which again, technically get nothing out of. So we're going through probably a 3-year, 3-phased upgrade down in Kentucky with some new technology, which we're getting away from some of the heavy crane shuttle, and now the robotics are now not even running. Now they're running, climbing, retrieving.
Yeah.
Just really opened up an aperture for us to streamline our operation down there, and just gain some of the flexibility of the newer technology. So those 3 things happening right now with all the emerging technology was a pretty fun time to be in, because I was speaking at a function not too long ago, and I told people, I said, being in an industry and being there at a moment in time that the industry's truly changing.
Yeah.
And I said, this point in time with this AMR robot type technology, I said, it is as big as the mechanized conveyor was, back in the early 1900s, Henry Ford. I mean, it's really that big. That sounds, like drama, and so you've got to rethink your entire business, because the art of the possible is now way different than it used to be.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, to be in operations, you got to be a tinker, and you kind of like to get into that. It's kind of the fun stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what we got going.
Yeah, good. So the Kentucky thing, I know you meant it rhetorically when you said, what does DHL get out of that? But I'll put it to you, Justin. What does DHL get out of that activity?
I think I said it best earlier. Carhartt's success is DHL's success, whether it's a building we don't operate or a building that we do operate. If Carhartt's succeeding and healthy, that's gonna mean that we're servicing their needs and their customers well, and it's a partnership at the end of the day that we all want to succeed in.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, thank you both. Thanks, Tony, for coming back, and Justin for your first visit. We'll look to check in again, and we'll aim to do it in person, maybe in Texas.
There you go.
Sometime down the road. So thanks very much for joining us, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to rate us and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also listen to our entire library of episodes on our website, dhl.com/ABNB podcast. See you next time.